Yes, folks, it's true. Yuji's main character symptoms, which had died over the last 100 chapters of Jujutsu Kaisen, are finally being reawakened in the latest chapters of the manga. Therefore, I'm here to analyze his latest strengths and how our boy is going to clap Sukuna this time for sure. Let's go! Now, in the last few chapters of Jujutsu Kaisen, Higuruma has activated his executioner's sword and is hell-bent on giving Sukuna a teeny tiny waste of death, and by that I mean my guy's out for blood. However, Sukuna's been dodging the blade, like a fish dodging the nets of fishermen, with the most ridiculously evil smile on his face. But still, he isn't as handsome as Daddy Gojo with that smile. Anyway, coming back to the topic in chapter 247 of JJK, Yuji is back after almost getting sausaged like Toji. And you all know what that means, right? Yuji has finally mastered the reverse curse technique after just 6 months of being a sorcerer. Well, Higuruma did it in 2 months, but that's beyond the point I'm making, which is Higuruma passing on the executioner's sword like a baton to Yuji so that he can end the king of curses after getting both his hands cut and barely managed to regrow one of them. However, Sukuna is not having it with Yuji, and his hatred, or boredom as he puts it, stems from a very deep disgust of understanding of Yuji as a person. And to actually dissect this part of Sukuna's feelings towards Yuji, we'll have to take a look at the highlights of his 6-month journey to become the protagonist Gojo foresaw in him. Now, Yuji actually started to excel after his quote-unquote rebirth during the Kyoto Goodwill event arc, wherein Todo determined, with his intense fight and an equally intense and uncomfortable array of questions directed at Jennifer Lawrence for some odd reason, that the 15-year-old is actually physically stronger than him. And this feat is actually very rare even in the world of JJK, as Yuji didn't even have an inherent curse technique at this point, meaning he was a grade 1 sorcerer only due to his humongous strength. However, more of Yuji's character was unraveled with his upcoming encounters with Mahito. And when his friendship with Junpei ended with the worst possible outcome, the event finally pushed the character over the edge and revealed the raw and extremely fragile world of Jujutsu sorcerers in its full glory. And as Mahito predicted after he saw Yuji's soul, he became Mahito's natural enemy and finally hunted down the curse in the worst and, for the audience, in the most soothing way possible. As you can recall, during the last moments of Yuji with Mahito at the Shibuya incident, Mahito's story literally came full circle with the story of Dr. Frankenstein. Mahito succeeded in creating a monster out of Yuji, just like how Dr. Frankenstein created Frankenstein's monster, and both creators ended up falling prey to their very creation. Yuji finally accepted that he was nothing but a cog in the machinery that was the Jujutsu world, and that he would keep spinning until all the curses were dealt with, otherwise he would just die trying. And after that, during the culling games, Sukuna snatched out the last few shreds of hope that resided within Yuji after he took over Megumi's soul and basically made Fushiguro a prisoner in his own body. Thus, Yuji has grown from an optimistic kid entering high school to a depressed fighting tank with almost no morals left and only one goal to accomplish: beat each and every cursed spirit right down to a pulp with his bare hands. Now that's scary. However, coming back to the present, Sukuna is basically the one person, or curse, whatever you want to call him, who has seen Yuji's progress firsthand. However, unlike our usual shonen otakus, Sukuna is disgusted by the mere thought of Yuji, let alone his positive growth as a sorcerer. But why is that? Well, we can recall in chapter 214 that while Yuji was battling Sukuna, the latter uttered that Yuji is from that time, followed by stating that Kenjaku does the grossest things. Now, these two mentions point us to basically two theories about Sukuna's understanding of the situation. Either he's grossed out by Kenjaku getting his back blown while in Yuji's mom's body, or Yuji is kind of a reincarnation of someone or something that Sukuna wasn't really a fan of in the Heian era. And I know that most of you might bet on the first option, but that seems to not be the case, as in chapter 247, while getting Yuji Sukuna, he utters that he's just a bore. Now, we all know that Sukuna is a sucker for fighting strong opponents with varied abilities, as seen in his fights with Gojo, Kashimo, and even Higuruma. However, whenever Yuji comes along with his closed fist and a punch full of cursed energy, Sukuna has each and every time denied his love advances. Rageful advances, and swatted him like a fly. Dedicated fans of the series, much like me, have pointed out that this disgust stems from Sukuna's mind due to the life theories of both characters being miles apart, with no overlap or middle ground to reach an understanding. Yuji sees Sukuna as some evil overlord who has no right to kill anyone he pleases, as it goes against the basic worldview from his point of view due to his growing up in a loving and fulfilled environment. Whereas if you look over from Sukuna's POV, the world is filled with heinous monsters, masquerading as humans and curses, each waiting for their chance to dominate the other. And well, as Gege hasn't revealed a shred of information about Sukuna's past, we really cannot source the origin of his ideals. However, one thing that is certain according to Sukuna, which we also saw in Gojo as well, is that once you're there at the top, consequential things become inconsequential, and inconsequential things cease to exist, which in this case is Yuji. But much like most inconsequential things in Sukuna's long life, Yuji doesn't seem to give up and is seen waiting for the four-armed monstrosity at every corner of the way, adding to Sukuna's frustration. However, coming back to the end of chapter 247, Sukuna is seen almost getting stabbed by Yuji, but all of this delves down into a deeper disappointment for the fans as chapter 248 drops and somewhat concludes the winner of the Higuruma and Yuji vs Sukuna fight. And well, you guessed it, the winner, Sukuna. As we all know, Gege has proven to be a sadist when it comes to his fans' feelings, and after 200 plus chapters of torture, fans have now accepted this treatment. In any case, Higuruma is D-E-A-D dead, and so is his curse technique, aka the Executioner's Sword. Therefore, right before Yuji was about to finish Sukuna, the blade vanished, leaving the boy once again at the mercy of the big bad king of curses, who punched him back. Now, funnily enough, what people have been expecting since Shibuya has come true, and Mei-Mei's brother Wee Wee has the ability to teleport people, and he has already teleported the bodies of Gojo to Shoko, who may or may not be healing them. However, after Wee Wee's reveal comes the dialogue out of Sukuna's thoughts, which is the base of the whole video. He notices Sukuna mastering the reverse curse technique and comments that Yuji might turn out to be his main dish. Now, I know the whole sentence is pretty disrespectful and also kind of cannibalistic. However, coming from Sukuna's thoughts, it's damn near the only praise Yuji might get in the entirety of Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, if we look at the events of the Shinjuku Showdown, every contestant standing against Sukuna has managed to null down or draw out one of his abilities, with Gojo tackling the 10 shadows, Kashimo forcing Sukuna to transform, and Higuruma taking his weapon. The stage likely seemed set, however, before Yuji and Sukuna could engage in a tussle, Sukuna had an epiphany, and trust me, it's not what you think. Sukuna is disgusted, but I think he has now realized the root cause of his disgruntled feud with Yuji. Sukuna comes to the conclusion that each opponent he faced there stood for an ideal that grew beyond their own lives, and hence the participants were more than willing to sacrifice themselves. This leads him to the revelation that he was forced to cohabitate with Yuji, and despite Yuji's denial of ever wanting to give up, the thing that frustrates him the most is the fact that there is a chance that he has changed for the first time in 1,000 years. A mere cockroach like Yuji, who wouldn't be of any concern for him 1,000 years ago, is now his center of attention due to his indomitable spirit, a thing that he considers to be worthless. Now, what I mean by this mumbo-jumbo is that although Gojo came close to defeating Sukuna, he wasn't bothered as Gojo's ideals matched his to some extent, which made sense to him. However, getting confronted by the ideals of Yuji and questioning his own has made Sukuna doubtful. This might lead to him doubting his very existence and sowing the seeds of contempt in his heart. This is the exact thing Sukuna might come to fear the most, and it might be the reason he's always been icked by Yuji's presence. However, once again, Gege showed his true colors at the end of the chapter and left us with a cliffhanger, where Yuta arrives at the scene and Rika proceeds to materialize in a gigantic form and press her hand on Sukuna. Thus, the next chapter might be the contest of the legitimacy of the royalty of Jujutsu Kaisen, the king of curses versus the queen of curses, and Yuta as well. Therefore, the story could go anywhere from here. Either Yuta could overpower Sukuna, forcing him to start the merger with Tengen, or Yuta could just become another one of the participants who's there as a stepping stone for Yuji's success. Whatever the case may be, I have no doubt in the abilities of Gege-sensei, and he'll be sure to bring us the worst possible scenario as fans, and crush our spirits in the upcoming chapters of the manga. If you liked my take, see my other stuff as well after dropping a like. Do it, or Yuta will die as well.